Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at Outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Luiz Piovesana, who is the CMO at Nuvemshop. Thanks for joining us, Luiz.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Saksham. Really happy to be here.
So Luiz, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
Let's do it.
At what age do you want to retire?
Probably never 100%. So never.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
About 40 minutes.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Probably presenting some paper in high school. Or that's when I most felt uneasy.
Favorite color?
Purple.
What time of day are you most inspired?
Morning, surely.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
6, but rather 7.5.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Do you want to say AI?
Sure, you can say that.
Yeah, but we're talking too much and doing too little.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Campinas, that's where I live, in Brazil.
Pick one, Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Launching an SMB SaaS in early 2009. Too early in life.
How do you relax?
Playing with my daughter.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
3, 4 plus. Too many.
A habit of yours that you hate.
Pass.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Embracing your mistakes.
And the last one is your favorite Netflix show.
Stranger Things, I would say.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. You only had 1 pass, so that was very good.
Woohoo.
And do you want to elaborate on any of the answers you gave in the rapid fire that you want to talk about in more detail, or?
Yeah, I think we talk as marketers, we don't talk enough about making mistakes. And you asked about the biggest mistake of my career, and it was a mistake, and probably it's the biggest because then it made us change the course of the startup we had, which was to sell the part that actually worked and close the rest and go in different directions after that. But as marketers, especially in SaaS, we have to do a lot of mistakes. So it's not about suffering about them, but it's about embrace, as I mentioned in the end, what can you learn from them and actually build on top of that, and that's actually a really the most valuable input you can have in order to grow anything beyond what you're doing right now. So talking about more mistakes, I believe it's key to embracing them and accepting them and actually learning how to move on and build on top of them.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us something about the drum set you have in the background. It's like the elephant in the room. Do you play drums?
Yeah. Yes, I do play the drums. It's been 25 years now. So a long time. And there's an interesting story there because when I was in high school, I was a really good math and physics student. So after that, I ended up going to engineering school, which it was the classic, oh, someone is really good at math, so they go and go be engineers. And I told my father, I said, okay, probably you're thinking that I'm doing engineering, but actually I'm studying music, and I'm being a rock drummer, etc. And then he asked me the one question that made me, at that time at least, change my path, which was, do you need the university degree in order for you to be a drummer in a rock band, or that's just a plus? That's a plus. Okay, so would you rather go all in, which is fine? So he was playing really safe, but in his head, he told me afterwards that it was really panicky. Or would you rather have a backup safety plan and give a shot to a different direction that actually you've been doing your whole life, and try your music business on the side? And that's the path. It was really logical to do that, for me at least. And being a musician is not an easy job to do, or to create a living. And it was really clear after a few years from that. So I really appreciate how my father coached me. He didn't give me the answer. Of course, he was directing me towards one, but he was not confrontational, or he wasn't trying to put his will onto me. He just tried to make me think about the choices and how he knew me, how I could react to that. So really nice story there.
So what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and pursue a career in marketing and sales in particular?
So after I got into school, into engineering, I realized that I didn't want to be an engineer, which is ironic, considering what I just told you. At the same time, I really enjoyed doing the whole 5 years of the engineering degree. But I was really engaged by an extracurricular activity called Junior Enterprise. Junior Enterprise is a really common and famous in the university circle, both in Brazil and in Europe. So there's a big confederation in Europe it was called JADE, now it's called Junior Enterprise Europe. And because of that, I had the chance of being an entrepreneur while studying, and that beat me somehow. So I got the entrepreneurial virus right then and there, and during this experience, I got the chance of working a bit with finance, but in a really fast pace, I moved to marketing and sales. My father was in sales his whole life, and I said, oh, maybe I can do that. And being not an introvert, but a really big extrovert amongst introverts in engineering. So that's the kind of role I got pushed into, even by myself. And then once I got the feeling of doing a sale and actually being in a role that was customer facing role or partnership facing, and being the front person for that, I just got inspired. And then when I started my own startup a few years later, I immediately got myself the part of sales. And then within the first few years, I saw that if we were not building a marketing engine, my sales role would be very limited, would be a really low ceiling, because I was not creating demand. I was just getting the demand that already existed into the pipeline and selling to them, but I was not positioning. I was not creating more interest. I was not creating conversation so that my pipeline and my potential market could grow. So that's how I got from sales and then into marketing. So by suffering from the pains.
So in this entrepreneurial journey of yours, how do you balance the need for short-term results with long-term brand building and sustainability?
So there was a period of 5 years that I ran my own startup. So from launching the product, from first customers, getting an angel, a group of angel investors in, to growing the team, and then to selling it out. Um, so probably we thought zero about brand building during this first or this only in first 5 years. But at the same time, and that's really important, not only for startups, but also for marketing professionals in every kind of company. The branding is the elephant in the room, is what people say about you when you're not there. So that's it's a perception you create for someone, and that actually always start with the product or service you're offering them. So that's the basic of the branding you have, and the way you're delivering this value proposition into your customer's life. Surely, in the beginning, you have founders, and these founders will set the tone culture-wise, and that culture will also set the tone for the brand and for these experienced customers you have. So that's the easy part, because then it's a really small group of people doing that directly and chatting amongst themselves. As you grow and as your reach also has to scale, I believe it's more of a cultural proof that you need to go through, and how you're scaling the team, and how you do business, how you create some more materials, from content to customer relationships. And for me, that's values based, and that's not brand building as per se, because you're not thinking specifically about that, but you're thinking about, are we working as a team as we thought we wanted, and is that how we want to keep growing? And eventually we'll get to that part, but during my own company, we never got that. And now I have a completely different scenario, and we can talk about that later. But it's about the cultural aspects, and then the mixing of long-term goals with short-term goals, that you do have, we did have a death clock on our board, on our main board there in the office, and for how much are we gonna die and when. So as an early startup founder back then, we knew that maybe some things for the long term wouldn't have any effort towards that directly, or at least at that moment, but some things could actually kill us. So if you don't put out the fire, or if you don't prevent the fire from happening, you won't be able to fulfill your path towards the long term. Surely that's the balance that you start to make every time you get funding, or you get a little more of a runway towards cash, and then you start rebalancing that. But it is what it is in the beginning. If you can die if you do not deal with the short-term urgencies.
And what were some of the tough moments where it was not possible to balance it?
So early on, we did have an investor after 1 year, but then they pulled back. So that put us in a really difficult position, because we already had a cost structure of 2 people plus the 3 founders. The 3 founders were zero costs when this kind of trouble happens, because the founder's salary in the beginning is the first thing you cut when you have this kind of trouble. But then we already had 2 or 3 more people. We had an office, we had customers, and then we had to rethink everything we're doing in terms of midterm. We were having some midterm projects going on, and then we had to rebalance everything. So how we're paying these people, by when do we need to ramp up this pipeline that we have right now, and we thought they were going longer, but we need them to close right now and make sure that they are paying right now. We also understood how it would be to open a loan with our current with our bank at the time, and how to balance that. If the interest will be good enough for us. And financial services in Brazil have just a really big margin, so it's not easy to do that as in a really early startup. So these are the moments when you have an inflow of cash projected, and then out of nowhere, you just don't have it anymore. So plans have to change quickly, and I think that's the key. So how you rebalance everything when this sudden apocalyptic events happen, and that's it.
And so, in your current scenario, how do you approach building and leading high-performing teams in the B2B marketing and sales space?
So now I have a completely different scenario. So now I'm the CMO of Nuvemshop. Nuvemshop is the leading e-commerce platform in Latin America. We have around 120,000 SMB customers across Latin America, especially Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico. We are a team of about 1,000 people in the company. The marketing team is a little bit over 100 people. So I'm talking about all of that to give the context and to create this context, because it's a really, really different scenario. And when you think about this big organization or this scenario where we are still a high growth company, scaling up, and with a huge ambition of being a secular company, then we come back to the reality. And it's the first thing I have to say is about how you hire people, the leaders that are becoming your direct reports, and how are they skilled and experienced enough in order to create their own organizations and build on top of what has already been built before, but building the organization that is gonna deliver the results for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So it's a lot about the people you hire and how to actually help their evolution as professionals, as leaders themselves. Because, okay, you're hiring someone really exceptional, really experienced, but you hire for, of course, for behavior and for technical skills. In terms of behavior, you can find people that are really fit your culture and get along with how things are done, but they don't have the same history of the company. They don't have the data for a while, and even if the behavior really fits well, they won't be 100%. So there's still a lot of work to be done there. And then after you start to work with them for a while, you start to see some gaps and how you can coach them in order for them to self-improve. Because after you get into a certain level of seniority, it's probably my team has technical skills better than I would have if I were doing their jobs specifically. So I think that's key, because if I were able to do, I don't know, product marketing better than my head of product marketing, then I didn't hire well. At the same time, there are other things that I can help him with, and also coach him in order to help him see and find his own path. So hiring, working together as a peer, and coaching so that you can actually make that go further, and how they actually will do all of these three things with their respective teams. I think that's the key for me.
And has there been any slowing down in hiring because of AI, or is that just a myth?
Not yet. We have built the teams in the past 2 to 3 years. That's when they have grown the most. We've been hiring at the same pace. We plan to hire late last year, when we didn't know about the AI explosion that was going to happen. At the same time, we are indeed in several teams testing AI, not only ChatGPT prompts and improving them, but also specific tools for specific teams, so that we can gain actually productivity. So either it helps you spend less, or to gain more, either or. So what I believe is that if we prove how this actually can deliver a value, then we'll understand, okay, so how much are we investing in tools versus people, or because we found this new way of doing this, we need more people to do that. I really believe there will be a change of roles and change of how people operate, but I don't think there will be a slowdown or a deprecation of the marketing role in any specialty. And yeah, I really, there's still a lot of time to see and understand how that's going to work in reality. But I really believe it's more about roles changing rather than jobs being smashed down. So and I'm talking about this because for as long as I remember, I talk about this because as an engineer, I was doing automation. So all the time, that was a kind of subject I had to deal with. I was never a real engineer, but in school, that was the kind of topic we needed to deal with in several cases. And that's what has happened throughout time. Of course, Gen AI can be a huge thing. And would change the ceiling or how the parameters we have for understanding what is repetitive work, what is needed, what is not needed. But I really believe it's about understanding that as a tool and not as a replacement for humans.
So speaking of roles then, could you elaborate on your involvement in analyst relations, PR, and branding, and how they contribute to a company's success?
Surely. So prior to Nuvemshop, I was for almost 6 years in a company that used to sell software to big enterprises. And now I'm selling basically to SMBs, even a starting entrepreneur out of his ring, or a medium-sized company of some tens of employees. So it's a different scenario. And I think when we understand that B2B has this different spectrum of possibilities, I think this also changes not only branding or analyst relations, PR, all the public relation parts, but also demand gen. But talking first about analyst relations, PR, etc. So firstly, as a marketer and former sales executive, I really believe that everything depends on the maturity, not only of the market, but also of the company you are in. So if you're just building the marketing functions out of nothing, you start building from the ground up. So from the bottom of the funnel up. So you need to understand what customers you have, how they got in. You have to work really closely with sales, and then you start building your demand gen engine, how you're attracting people, and then you remove one layer above, and then one layer above, etc. So understanding that you already have those basic layers with sales and demand gen built, it's about how you can direct more attention to your business or more leads to your acquisition machine. And then AR, if I talk about enterprise sales, if you're talking about software, for example, you have to talk to the analyst firms of the world, the Gartners, the Forresters, the IDCs. So at Sincida, which was my previous company, there was a line that when we crossed, we saw a really different way people were perceiving our brand. That when we got into Gartner's Magic Quadrant for API management, which is their main value prop. So we did a lot of effort because as a Brazilian company doing business only Brazil was not easy to get noticed by Gartner, and there were some criteria that they put into place so that they would not have a quadrant with, I don't know, 50, 60 players. They would narrow it down to about 15, 20. So there was a lot of work to put that live. And after that was a different ladder we were climbing. So the first part was really steep, really difficult because a lot of enterprise companies, they do their their buying process. They get from Gartner, they do their shortlists from the quadrant, and that's it. So it was a really tough way in before, after being the quadrant, and obviously working our way up into the best part of the quadrant, got us a huge advantage. And of course, that came together with being the leaders in Brazil and then expanding internationally. So we saw that there was a huge effect of actually being considered by Gartner or being mentioned by the analysts. That also happened in parallel with Forrester talking about software purchases. So for us, that was really a much bigger lever than basic PR, which was being the press, especially because the press was not that interested when you're talking about API management. Of course, you can talk APIs, you can talk about integrating different systems, but then we saw that the really niche PR vehicles would be the best one for us, because then they would be read by our buyer personas, and that would help us. So we were doing some basic PR so that we could get some more credibility from those vehicles, and then at the same time getting more credibility from the influencers, from the analyst firm. So in the end, when you talk about public relations or analyst relations, it's about how can you pick up the credibility from the people that your buyer personas trust the most. I think that once you understand what are the lower hanging fruits you have there, so not only the most influential people there, either journalists, analysts, but also the ones that are most reachable by you right now. On the other end, not on the other end, but as an additional part, the branding, as I mentioned before, it's something you try to create as an experience regarding your value prop. But if you're already working towards this top of funnel activities and initiatives, the branding has to be really clear. So what are key messages? What kind of perception you want to create? So the kind of questions you ask in the beginning, but then how can you actually create putting to work the consistency across the company, not only the support team or even in the product, the UX, but also how your sales team is approaching their behavior when selling, how your marketing team is communicating, what are doing in events or in any kind of workshop or live interaction you have. So the brand will be perceived through all these touch points. It's really important to, for me, the key there in this kind of effort to create this perception is consistency. So you cannot create your brand around, I don't know, 5 different aspects. If you can create really around one, you're lucky. If you do it really, really, really well, perhaps up to 3 could be possible, but I really don't recommend. I would say it's about how you can use the levers that are customer facing and create this kind of consistency. And actually, when I say consistency, it's really about repeating, and marketing people get really tired of repeating the same message. But once you start as a marketer getting tired, that when probably the first few closer customers are starting to get the message, so you need to be, I don't know, 10 times more tired than you actually think so that you can get the message through and get the perception you plan out to have.
Mm-hmm. So could you then share a memorable success story of a brand or business that has consistently transformed and thrived through the marketing and sales strategies that you implemented?
Oof. Okay. So that's an ongoing challenge. So, for example, at Nuvemshop, especially in Brazil, which is our biggest market, as Latin America, as Brazil is more than half of Latin America's economy. One of the things we're doing, it's a branding part, but not especially for customers. I'm giving this example for outsiders for the market, because we didn't have a reputation when I got there. So we were really, I don't know, the fourth or fifth player back in 2019. But we had already a great volume of customers. We had a really valuable data, and we didn't have the ear or the access to any journalists, although we did have really valuable data and stories to tell about customers, about really small entrepreneurs who changed their lives and through commerce, through digital commerce. And then one of the things that we started back in the end of 2019, and of course during COVID, got a really increasing profile, but then we managed to keep them at a really strong pace right now. It's about how we tell the stories about how consumers are behaving, but especially how that behavior is impacting small business. And that's a topic that journalists always like to tell, because small business are the majority in Brazil. They are responsible for, 70+% of all the jobs. So that's the kind of topic they like to tell. And we just needed to find how we could bring Nuvemshop and be the voice of small businesses in that sense. And we've been doing that for that long and really notoriously. And now we have, it was how we built a PR engine that now talks about one particular state. We have 27 states in Brazil. So we have data about the specific state and how they sold versus at this Mother's Day versus the last one, or how they're improving versus the Christmas period. So we managed to create this a really important and a big volume level of awareness of how SMBs are doing in the digital world. And I really believe that has impacted us really in a positive way since in the past 3.5 years. So I think that's one way.
Okay, and so then keeping Nuvemshop aside, the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this right now?
Oof. If I were going back, I would say being a drummer. But going forward, would be unwise of me not to take advantage of the experience I've gathered along these past 15 plus years. I really believe I could be of assistance to other marketing leaders who are in different levels of maturity on how they're creating their teams or their levers. Because I created a startup from zero, and then I got a really small company of 20 people and got them and managed to create my team from zero to 15 people, and revenue was up by tenfold. And then at Nuvemshop also I got from that point. So it was really a continuous line for me, although there were 3 different companies, and now I managed also to do the scale up part of the process, and now having more mature teams and a more mature leadership. I really believe I could be of value. I don't know working at a venture capital, be an advisor to growth or marketing teams. That could be a way, or even, I don't know. I also really am passionate about animal rescue organizations. So really believe a more marketing specialist kind of advisor could help these kind of organizations thrive. So I don't know, working with NGOs of sorts could also be a path for me.
All right. Well, hopefully you get to do that in your future. And that was the last question. Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Luiz Piovesana, who is a CMO at Nuvemshop. Thanks for joining us, Luiz.
Thank you so much, Action, and hope everybody enjoys.
Yeah, check out their website for more details, and we'll see you next month once again with another Marketer of the Month.